Sure. My name's Steve Hoinka. I lead global manufacturing strategy for PepsiCo, based in Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. My name's Alistair Orchard. I lead innovation for Siemens in the field of adaptive and distributed manufacturing. I live in Italy. I'm a British guy, but I live there for the very important business reason.
So
that
almost
it's nice.
as luxurious as Dallas.
Exactly. It's not. Yeah. Okay. We actually just I don't know if you know. Probably we just finished the Winter Olympics in Italy, in Milan, near where I live. There's a very important sporting competition that's coming up in the US. I don't think we can mention the name here on stage. Are you going to get to watch any matches there in Texas?
We may. There's two stadiums that we'll be hosting in Houston and Dallas, although I believe early matches for the US are going to be on the West Coast.
All right, nice. Unfortunately, Italy didn't get through.
I was going to ask you about that. I didn't see Italy in the bracket anywhere.
Any Italians in the room? No, yeah. So a bit of a disaster. We won the competition and we haven't qualified for the last 12 years, which isn't great. But I'm originally British, so I can cheer for England. Actually, England's playing on the East Coast, which means we're not going to meet until the quarterfinals or the semi-finals, depending on how we do in our group matches. And then we'll either play in Dallas, I think, or New York. And actually, the great thing about these competitions is you never really know. It's very difficult to predict demand. And I'm just wondering how that kind of affects the Pepsi supply chain. I mean, how do you plan for something like that?
It's difficult. That's not an easy solve, obviously. Particular in cases like this, and with I think we can use Gatorade as an example. That portfolio, in particular, in a situation like this, is very stressed.
Oh, why is that? Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, there's a number of reasons. First and foremost, I mean, Gatorade, right? It's one of PepsiCo's iconic billion-dollar brands. It's also very closely tied to sports, as you could imagine. Right? Being the number one sports drink on the planet. So when you talk about a sporting event, especially one that's typically held during the summer months to begin with, we already see a elevated demand because it's summer. People drink more Gatorade just naturally. And then you layer on top of that a sporting event, which then drives additional spike in demand. And in this particular case, because Gatorade in colors, you could see where potentially if you had a team, Brazil facing, Argentina, you would see more likely a spike in demand in green and yellow and potentially light blue, right, to represent your team. And so therefore, when you're trying to predict that demand for what's going to happen in an event, especially when they're held in multiple cities across the U.S. or North America in general, landing that demand based off of what sports teams are playing where can be very complicated.
Oh, that's tough. I guess that event is a kind of, perfect storm. But we actually hear that quite a lot, even from your other industry peers, whether it's for sustainability reasons or kind of consumer demand driving this behavior, personalization, tariff barriers. Companies are starting to think more about on-demand manufacturing instead of kind of just making in case. Yeah. All right, cool. So how did we address this whole idea? At the moment, it's only art of the possible, but we modeled together 17 pop-up factories. These are highly modular, movable, adaptive factories in a container. We positioned 17 of them around North America, so Canada, US, and Mexico. We used our supply chain suite to optimize the positioning with respect to expected demand. And these are highly adaptive and autonomous factories. All you do is you can throw any recipe, any CPG recipe, and an order at one of these factories. They self-organize and produce that product. And not just one product, but multiple products simultaneously. All right, so there are no lines which hard code a certain product. And this is really interesting. This obviously includes the ability to manufacture any combination of Gatorade formulations simultaneously on demand.
So rather than guessing what demand's going to be needed where, once we understand what teams are playing at what stadium,
Yep.
we can produce all of those flavors or colors according to what we think the spike in demand is actually going to be based off of that environment.
That is awesome. Let's show
We should show them an example.
All right, so here we are. So we have a match simulator here, and we're going to schedule a clash between a couple of big teams, maybe Brazil, Portugal. We can choose a date and the location. So any of these stadia, maybe we'll choose Seattle. You don't have any facilities in Seattle, right?
Not Gatorade.
Not yet, not Gatorade. When we press go, what happens is that this creates a demand signal, a totally unpredictable demand signal, and this is picked up by our agent framework.
Yeah, so we have a Pepsi agent that essentially figures out what team and what colors or flavors we should be producing. That's going to be most important based off of the teams that are going to be playing in that particular game. And then that one we pass off in terms of how do we figure out exactly where and when we got to make it.
Yep. This is all agent-to-agent technology. And so the Pepsi agent then speaks to our distributed manufacturing agent. We use RapidMiner to provide access to our agent to all of that factory network. And we can use that to carefully map the materials and operations in the Gatorade recipes that are stored in Team Center to the capabilities and inventory in that factory network. And then we distribute that unexpected demand to the production network. We're basically using smart contracts to create these on-demand orders for those factories. We encrypt the recipes, send them down to the Siemens edge device in the factory, and then inject that. We decrypt it, inject it into this adaptive production orchestrator called BOPEX. And that's where the factory comes alive and starts producing the product.
Yeah, based on what you can see behind us here, it looks like that it's picked 2 flavors in 3 separate stand-up pop-up factories.
And this is one of those factories. This is actually our industrial metaverse viewer. So we can dive into one of those factories. We can look at the data kind of streaming off the equipment, how it rolls up into KPIs. We can actually zoom in and look at real-time production. And we can use this environment also to do what-if studies, look into the future, optimize logistics. But if we want to know more about what's going on in that pop-up factory, we can actually go there to our live connection. Davide, are you there in Texarkana? How is production going? Can you tell us more? And we've only got like 3 minutes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, Steve. Hi, Alistair. Good talking to you. So, guess what? Where the agents have directed our orders to the factory right behind me. So you may think that what you see behind me here is a video or something like that, a gimmick. But no, in reality, we are in front of a real virtual factory. It's a factory in a container. And what we see behind me is a mix of virtual and real equipments fulfilling the production of these Gatorade batches that we've just discussed about to fulfill the increased demand. What is magic about the whole process is that these orders through the agents, they land straight into our industrial edge box here next to our virtual factory, and they're starting to be produced. Our execution engine here is capable to do a real-time matching between what's needed by the product, what is the next production step needed, and what actually is available in the shop floor. So it's a full pipeless production that allows a very agile type of manufacturing. In the end, we have Gatorade palletites. We run through the concept of rainbow pallets, so our visitors here are able to configure their own mix of flavors of Gatorade. And in the end, through all the steps, we are able to execute the whole recipe and have also a full traceability of the product. And actually, you know what? I think I'll just bring one of the produced strawberry Gatorades to you on stage so that you can have a look at what exactly the traceability and its distributed product passport looks like.
Awesome. It's not really good when your roving reporter's lost his voice, but it wasn't bad. Thank you, Davide. Thank you. Back over to the studio. Can you make your way over here, Davide? You're essential for the next step in the story.
This is absolutely game changing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a seat. All right, so let's see if I can scan this in. Bloop. The magic of cinema. Bloop. All right, so having scanned this in, we see the distributed product passport, which has been created on the blockchain specifically for this product, okay? And we can also link, Steve, to all of the traceability of this product. So what happened in that pop-up factory, all the equipment that was used, the set points, the quality tests, and we can actually link back to raw materials, which is critical, right, in your industry?
Absolutely.
I think
End-to-end traceability.
End-to-end traceability. And there's laws now about that. This has been in the Europe for a long time. It's coming to the US.
It sure is. Quicker than we wanted to.
Yeah, probably. We can even see the kind of geographical journey of this product. So we can see where the raw materials came from, where they've been on a lovely little map. There we are. Don't ask me why, but they seem to travel from the US to Puerto Rico and then back again. That's probably some insider information you don't want us to know. Shh. Okay, very good. Now, this has been something of art of the possible exercise, but we really did build it. This is a fully working environment. Did you learn anything about this? And do you think it could even work in the real world?
Absolutely. I mean, this is absolutely game changing for anything, especially CPG and F&B. When you talk about food and beverage, perishable product, you don't have an eternity of life on products. You can't pre-build, although there's some of that you can do. The availability or the capability of being able to manufacture as close to consumption in the portfolio of the actual demand and create rainbow pallets that could go direct to customers is absolutely game changing. And so it's one of the reasons why I thought there was a very interesting use case for us to take a look at.
What's also cool is you don't necessarily need to own that factory network. So you can even use
rented space, co-manufacturers. Absolutely.
Cool. We're actually working together on using our digital twin composer on one of your factories, Irving, I believe, in order to work out how to optimize the space there and drop one of these adaptive cells into the factory.
The entire, what we referred to as the Texas Triangle. So yes, all the Texas manufacturing facilities.
Perfect. And this model and many of our other collaborations are also available live on the CPG booth. By the way, we invite you all to stand up, go over, and check it out. You can actually schedule your own matches and see the factory come alive and adapt to your own demand. And Davide will give you a free bottle of Gatorade. Actually, he won't, but very good. All right, thank you very much indeed. Cheers, Steve. Thank you. Thank you, Davide.
Thanks, Dave.